Story number 1. My wisdom teeth came in when I was 16. Maybe I was an old soul, my mother always called me at such a young age, but they were impacted and needed to come out right away. As I look back through my timeline, they used thiopentyl sodium or sodium pentothal to knock you out. Oral surgeons no longer use it, and it is rarely used in hospital surgeries. Anyway, I believe the nurse attending the oral surgeon overdosed me, and I did indeed leave this earthly plane while on this drug, or in it. I know this because when I awoke, I'm not sure how long had passed, I found the dentist straddling the chair I was reclining in, frantically pounding my chest and screaming in my face, "Breathe! Breathe! Breathe!" I still remember his terrified expression to this day. When the nurse and surgeon saw that I'd finally regained consciousness, they whispered back and forth, working quickly, and I recall him saying to her, "Okay, let's do this and get this kid out of here." I will stand by this experience until the day I die, because I'm certain that what I'd heard and felt during that office visit was completely real. It wasn't just the drug that was making me hallucinate. That was just the catalyst that gave me probably the most wonderful experience I've ever known, certainly unlike anything on earth. I lay awake for the rest of the surgery, physically paralyzed by the drug, with only a seemingly never-ending stream of tears trickling from the corners of my eyes and into my ears as I considered and committed to memory everything I'd thought and felt when I left my body, as well as my sadness at being brought back. In comparison to the other side, the weight of life is far greater than any of us realize. At the time, and for many years afterwards, I never told anyone what had happened because I knew that if I did, the oral surgeon would most likely deny everything, and I was only 16 years old. Who would believe a teen explaining death, the great beyond, or heaven? "What was your experience like?" is the most frequently asked question when I share this very personal story with people, and so I'll tell you what I tell them. Did you ever go through your mother's kitchen herb and spice rack as a kid with the intention of making the most delicious soup ever known to man? You know, getting the biggest pot you could find, filling it with water and any other liquid ingredients you had on hand or preferred, and then shaking in the most glorious scents from little, ornate bottles, half of which had names you couldn't even pronounce? Basil, bay leaves, celery, coriander and cumin seeds, cinnamon, cloves, dillweed, fennel seeds, ginger, garlic, lemon peel, mint leaves, mustard seed, nutmeg, oregano, parsley, paprika, pepper, pumpkin spice, rosemary, sage, and extracts of almond, butter pecan, caramel, cherry, chocolate, lime, peppermint, and vanilla. Okay, you get the idea. And then basically sprinkling in these wondrous aromas and flavors, stirring them all together in the heating pot, and truly believing they would collectively become such a delectable sensation that every human on the planet would desire this groundbreaking cuisine. Maybe I was a strange kid, but I did. So what happened? In short, a rather disappointing brownish-black liquid with no taste. For a child who was adorably literal, I took this culinary defeat hard. How could such wonderful things combined become nothing at all? For the life of me, about 8 or 9 years, I couldn't figure out why and how all those incredibly beautiful, individually fabulous things ended up being dumped down the kitchen sink when combined. So it bothered me for a moment. But I was soon back on my bike, racing towards my next skinned knee. But now I can compare my NDE/OBE to that youthful cooking experiment. The big soup was where I went. You see, when the drug kicked in, I did have a sense of traveling, albeit not physically but mentally, and I didn't see a tunnel or white light, or any family members who had already passed on welcoming me, or any spiritual being beckoning me. It was as if I was enveloped in complete darkness in a slow motion blink of an eye. I had no bodily form yet. I was somewhere unearthly, with no gravity, and despite the darkness, or lack of sight, I felt surrounded by and a part of this exquisite and pure energy of everything. Everything, I mean, and we are all swirling in love. My next thought surprised me. Hey, I'm still me, but I'm a thought. At the same time, I had the impression that I was a part of everything and that everything that comprised the utterly peaceful and loving blackness was a part of me, and it was absolute bliss. I couldn't hear anything such as other people's thoughts or voices, but I kept thinking about who I am, and I felt very much alive while in this state, realm, or ethereal plane. I felt one with all the universes, galaxies, planets, and life on Earth. All things seen and unseen, breathing or still, atoms, molecules, quarks, and everything in between. And it was infinite and unadulterated. I don't think there are words in any language that could adequately describe it. The only thing I've been able to come up with is orgasmic consciousness. I knew my own separateness and, at the same time, my oneness with everything and the greatest sensation of love in and of all of it, and me wherever I was. So what I took away from this is that we take ourself with us wherever we go, so we better like who we are because we're stuck with ourself. Furthermore, as a result of the experience, I consider myself doubly blessed because I don't spend a nanosecond of my time or energy fearing death. So many people waste their time worrying about death. When it'll most likely be the best thing they ever do. The French refer to orgasms as le petit mort, or little death, and they may be onto something because dying was a great spiritual orgasm for me, and I'd do it again in an instant if given the chance. Okay, I'm not jumping in front of buses or trains, but I'm not afraid to go when the time comes. My body may fight instinctively to stay here, but my soul longs for the oneness to return. Based on my experience, I believe I know that what lies beyond this earthly realm is more beautiful than all of this, including all of those we love and all of our events. And maybe I'm just one flake of parsley in the universal big jar of parsley. Maybe we're all just a grain of spice on that heavenly kitchen rack, waiting for our turn to season the divine big bowl of soup. I mean, I'm sure the Creator is a much better chef than I'll ever be, but I still enjoy cooking, though I now use all of my ingredients in palatable moderation. Story number 2. Prior to the events that led up to my NDE, I have no memory. My husband is a retired U.S. Marine who served 23 years on active duty before retiring and becoming disabled in January 2015. I don't recall wanting to overdose or even feeling depressed in the days leading up to my overdose on September 29, 2015. I also had no recollection of ingesting anything or causing my intensive care hospitalization until a month later when I had a visual flashback. I only remember being very alert in the dark while on life support. I knew I was in another world. I knew I wasn't alone, but I also knew the only thing present was God's presence. I was not afraid, though my thoughts at the time were wondering if I was in purgatory, if this is where I would spend eternity. I was relieved that I wasn't in hell or encountering demons. I felt like I was on my way to heaven, but I was stuck in this suspended animation state, not seeing but knowing I was above my body, and I noticed there was no pain inside of me. I had never felt so whole, unconditionally loved, forgiven, and accepted as I did in those moments. I felt like I was floating in a pool of love and acceptance, and I thought I could stay there for eternity and be fine. I was relieved that I was no longer being abused by myself, my family, or my husband as I'd been recently. I didn't feel as if I were there for very long. Despite this, I was savoring every moment, being extremely mindful and observing everything I could, all while receiving and knowing unlike anything I'd ever known before. On September 30, I awoke to find my husband in intensive care next to me. He informed me that I was on life support. When I looked ahead, it said unresponsive on the board in front of me. My husband informed me that he had discovered me lying on our living room floor with my eyes open, not blinking and breathing very shallowly, and that he had called 911. They wouldn't let him in the ambulance. We didn't have a car, We had to surrender both cars due to John's pay cut after becoming disabled and not receiving disability pay. He had no choice but to take the bus to the hospital. He said I was full of gear when he arrived. My left forearm was swollen from thrashing, which could have been caused by seizures or something else. It perplexes me. When I woke up, I was furious. I awoke furious that people I had dedicated my life to had defined me as unworthy of living. I was furious that I had squandered my entire life on fear and people-pleasing. In my entire life, I'd never been so rude or angry towards anyone. In fact, I was allowed to leave ICU at 10:30 p.m. on October 1. I was high on the drug Michael Jackson had been taking. They told my husband that they gave me the highest dose possible to keep me from thrashing and so on. The doctors never said anything to me. My NDE completely changed my life. The more I accept it, the happier I am. The more I can give someone hope, the better off I'll be. There are far too many deaths. How does someone enter mental health therapy in 1987, receive consistent therapy and medication for the next 30 years, and then be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder in 2012 and attempt suicide 3 times in 2015? What causes this? I was never a patient person. No way, not even for a 72-hour hold. God was watching over me. In a crisis, my mental health provider turned me down. I was traumatized by the emergency room's treatment of me as a criminal. I no longer exhibit any signs of mental illness. I received complete healing as well as learning and began practicing mindfulness and life skills learned through dialectical behavior therapy on a daily basis. I was filled with love for everyone since I was a child. That strong love, it's still with me. It is all about love. It is not so much about what you can have as it is about what you give. Please assist me in giving hope to other mentally ill families, suicidal individuals, and anyone who believes the life ends when we die. No, it does not. We continue. God is real and He is love beyond words, and He has that powerful love for each and every one of us all over the world. We are all linked. Keep that beat going. Kindness, light, and love were submitted mindfully and respectfully. The grace of God has transformed me. Every second counts. We are all important. Live in the present moment. I've developed a talent for writing and I'm extremely creative. I'm thriving and overjoyed.
Thank you for sharing your incredible story with us. It's amazing to hear about the transformative power of an NDE and how it can change someone's entire outlook on life. If you want to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel Strange Stories, where we share daily narrations of near-death experiences submitted by our viewers. You never know how these stories can impact your life and help you see things in a new light. So hit that subscribe button and join our community of believers in the extraordinary.